Greetings, everyone. It is a cloudy, a little bit dreary day here in southeast Georgia. I'm doing kind of my sinuses, they started to feel funky yesterday, but I think I'm a little bit on the up and up this morning. Just feeling, tired or whatever. No fever, no nothing like that, but just exhausted, just angry sinuses. So hopefully nothing too big. But definitely slept more than I usually do at night. Just, my body recovering. You know how it is. But let's jump into the news for today.
Michelle Martin in New Orleans, Louisiana at member station WWNO. In a few minutes, we'll speak with the former senior leader at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and shook it about the shakeup at the health agency and how that may affect the country's ability to respond to a future pandemic.
First, though, we're going to take a look at Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s selection of a new acting CDC director.
The announcement comes after Susan Monarez was forced out of the job after less than a month. Her attorney states that she, quote, refused to rubber stamp unscientific, reckless directives and fire dedicated health experts, unquote. Several other top leaders at CDC then resigned in protest.
For more on the shakeup, NPR health policy correspondent Selena Stuffin is here to explain. Good morning, Selena. Good morning, Selena. So what have you found out about the soon-to-be acting director of CDC?
His name is Jim O'Neill. That was first reported by the Washington Post and confirmed by NPR. He's currently serving as Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s deputy at HHS. Previously served various roles at HHS under President George W. Bush. But since then, he's mostly run investment funds for billionaire tech investor Peter Thiel. He has expressed very strong libertarian views, including, for instance, that FDA should just put medicine out on the market and let consumers assume the risks.
What the fuck?
He thinks people should
That's
be able to be compensated for donating human organs to help incentivize more supply. Here he is in an online video making that point in a speech in 2009.
11 people every day die while waiting for a kidney that can save their life, and there are plenty of healthy spare kidneys walking around unused.
It's notable that he is not a physician or a scientist. Susan Monarez, who was Senate confirmed as CDC director, has a doctorate in microbiology, and most CDC directors through the decades have had medical degrees.
Okay, so he really has no medical background. She does. And the three CDC officials who resigned in protest over
We cannot have fucking rabid libertarians at the heads of government for agencies that are for the public good. Like, just putting drugs out on the market and being like, the market knows best. Like, that's absolutely insane. No, people don't actually know what shit is when it comes to medicine, because it takes such a wealth of time and knowledge. I mean, it takes 8 years for a person just to get just familiar enough to become a trainee doctor, to be familiar with medicine and the human body and appropriate practices. Like, it takes so much time and so much effort to know these things. We can't, that's why we need a governing body for this. So we can have little groups of experts help out, normal everyday people, because normal everyday people, their focus is, getting food on the table for themselves, getting a good nest egg so they can, be able to take a personal disaster or get their kids through college or have the ability to retire in peace, not to fucking study, hundreds of different drugs with thousands upon thousands of papers to figure out, maybe I should be taking this anti-inflammatory over that. That's absolutely ridiculous.
Who chairs the Health Committee in the Senate said this week that his committee will conduct oversight of these CDC resignations, although he's yet to confirm there'll be a hearing about it.
That's NPR Selena Stuffin. Thank you, Selena.
You're welcome.
So now we're going to want to talk about the impact of the CDC shakeup with Dr. Anne Schuchat, who served at the agency for 30 years. She's an epidemiologist who was the CDC's acting director in both the Obama administration and President Trump's first term. Dr. Schuchat, good morning and welcome to the program.
Thanks so much for having me.
Where do these departures of people who, the chief medical officer, top respiratory illness and immunization official, where does it leave the CDC in the short term without them?
This is really uncharted territory. These leaders who resigned oversaw enormous parts of the agency that are there in crisis and in peacetime, and their absences will be greatly felt.
So with their absence, how will that impact the nation's response to health crises, medical treatments people can receive?
Well, I think that the key thing is the acting director and the future director and what the secretary will allow the agency to do. People don't think about CDC every day unless there's an enormous outbreak or pandemic, but the agency is there to protect health and keep people safe from emerging threats, to prevent illness, disability, injury, and death. And without strong, experienced leaders, we're really at risk. When there's a new threat that's complex, you want someone with judgment, with experience, with balance to help gauge underreacting or overreacting. The earlier we respond, the easier it is, but over-response can be dangerous. And the leaders that left had decades of experience in really complicated situations. So I think we're going to need to see. There's very strong people still at the agency, but I think they're all making calculations every day about whether they'll be allowed to do their jobs.
And you said this is uncharted territory. You haven't ever seen something like this in the CDC before?
No, there's natural turnover as people finish their careers, move on to new assignments, and with each political new administration, there is some change, usually not very much. But the agency is nearly virtually all career employees. So this isn't like some of the Washington-based government agencies that have a very large cadre of politically appointed staff. CDC used to only have one political appointee, the director. So now there are more than that. But we haven't seen this many center directors with this much experience at the same time for this reason.
Yeah, I want to ask about vaccines because that's been a big flashpoint and a big concern. You spent many years working specifically on vaccine. You were the first director of the CDC's National Center for Immunization and Respiratory Diseases. You helped the U.S. and the world get immunized against pneumonia and meningitis. What are your thoughts as the Trump administration scales back vaccine availability?
I think at CDC we were committed to increase the transparency and the quality of decision making that was that informed vaccine policies, strengthening the ability for the public to see the evidence and to deliberate in public with a very structured approach, evidence to recommendation format. So I think that what we're seeing now is ideological decision about what the answer should be, and then a backfill of individuals on the advisory committee and working groups and so forth to get to the answer. A decision about what we want the answer to be on a question of vaccine vaccine safety and then let's manipulate the data to get there. So I do worry about access. The CDC oversees the Vaccines for Children program, which has saved about 1 million lives from premature death from vaccine-preventable disease, and saved about $1 trillion, in terms of its lifespan of existence. And that is contingent on access to the vaccines. So I worry that this government policymaker environment is very dangerous for the public.
Dr. Ann Schuchat is the former principal deputy director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Thank you for your time and your insights.
Thank you.
What the hell?
Downtown Kyiv. No staff armed, but Terry
middle
Schuchat says
interference.
the incident is driving EU leaders to step up their fight to support Ukraine.
EU ambassador to Ukraine, Katarina Matronova, says this is an example of how Russia seeks peace. At least 10 people killed, dozens injured, and many buildings destroyed, including her own office. Matronova posted photos of the damaged diplomatic mission in Kyiv and declared the EU will not be intimidated. Back in Brussels, EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen was outraged.
This is why we are keeping maximum pressure on Russia.
That pressure, von der Leyen warns, will be ratcheted up in the coming weeks as the bloc is negotiating a 19th package of sanctions against Moscow, aimed at reducing its ability to continue attacking Ukraine.
And in parallel, we are advancing the work on the Russian frozen assets to contribute to Ukraine's defense and reconstruction.
She's referring to a proposal to move some $230 billion worth of Russian assets that have been frozen in European accounts into riskier investments in order to earn more interest on them. Those profits are now being given to Ukraine to help pay for the damage Russia's causing. EU foreign ministers are expected to discuss this option for the first time along with the sanctions package.
Well,
They meet in Copenhagen Saturday. Defense ministers take the stage first.
So part of my ignorance on this, but like, why don't they just liquidate all those bank accounts directly into funds that help Ukrainians instead of investments? What? What? We're gonna use investments to help. We're gonna use the stock market to help Ukraine and hope that the interest off of this money is gonna be good. Like, I understand, like, if you get a 2% interest rate on $230 billion, like, that's $4 billion right there that you can use. Or you could just liquidate it all and just use all of it. I don't know, it just seems a little silly to me. Maybe I'm just not thinking long term enough. So that could just be me. They want a real war. They want real resistance. Just fucking steal their money since Russia's stealing land. But back to the CDC stuff, man. This is absolutely ridiculous. This current administration is doing everything they can to start another pandemic. They're doing everything they can to limit access to healthcare for all Americans. They're doing everything they can do to make access to healthcare more expensive than ever with the reconciliation bill, with these acts done at the Department of Health and Human Services, headed by RFK JR, who is a piece of shit and a lawyer. He is a lawyer that made his name spreading vaccine denialism and vaccine conspiracies and medical distrust, right? Like, that's how he made his money. That's how he made his name beyond being the son of a politician. And it's absolutely gross, right? This is why, like, oh man, this is why we need, like, a stronger legislative body, so it can just rip these fucking horrible people out of office. Because, like, the only balance that there is the Senate has to confirm these assholes with a simple majority, and there's no way for them to rip them out if they're doing a bad job. The executive has to make that decision, right? I'm not saying a simple majority. I think a 2/3 would be plenty to take these people out, because, like, they are harming so many Americans. They're making everything fucking worse. And it's going to take way longer to fix this problem than it was to create it in the first place, right? It's going to take so long to convince people, and by people I mean the people in Congress, who would rather fund wars overseas and genocides in Africa and in the Middle East than spending that money on Americans for building hospitals, training nurses, educating doctors, funding research studies. Like, they would do all those things more than they'll ever want to, they would rather, spend the money on buying more guns for dictatorships than they would making Americans actually healthy. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's disgusting. It's just absolutely disgusting. We need to get rid of these fucking corrupt politicians. We need to pass legislation that just rips fucking inadequate and inept members of the executive, because it's absolutely ridiculous that there's no impeachment process for secretaries in the executive. So they're doing a fucking piss poor job, but they are political allies, or they are basically suck-ups to the president, which is the only way you become a powerful person in the executive nowadays. By nowadays, I mean this current administration. Like, there's no way to get rid of them when they are doing what is effectively murder of Americans. And this is going to end up killing, if not thousands, potentially tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of Americans, especially if another pandemic rolls through. This isn't like, pandemics aren't a once in 100-year thing. It is random. It is at the will of nature. It could happen tomorrow. It could happen 10 years from now. But either way, the damage that's being done today is going to have reverberations for years to come. And it's absolutely ridiculous. And we need to take this power back from them, from the fucking corrupt politicians, from the people who are anti-expert, anti-intellectual, anti-science, because they're trying to throw away all the medical progress that we've had over the last 100 years. If they had the choice, they would fucking ban the polio vaccine because it has the word vaccine in it. And then we can have kids who grow up paralyzed or die before the age of 10 because these people are afraid of fucking tiny liquids and needles. They think that it causes a social condition and a learning disability that has been demonstrably proven to be not linked to vaccines whatsoever. It's fucking stupid. It's absolutely crazy. So we'll leave it there for Friday. Sorry, I'm a little bit more low energy today, but I guess I am still recovering a bit from being sick yesterday. But I think it's just one of those, like, little mini blips. But hey, who knows? Maybe in a year from now, when the CDC is nothing but empty buildings that are being sold off to Blackstone, maybe I'll have to worry even more about getting sick, because it won't just be something that I can just get some medicine, go see a doctor, and get taken care of. Maybe it'll be some fucking new horrible disease, or worse, a disease that we've known about for centuries, that we cured when my parents were babies, or even before then. Or not cured, we developed the cure for and potentially eradicated. But it's gonna come back because of anti-vax sentiment, anti-science sentiment, and garbage ghouls that have infiltrated the Department of Health and Human Services and the CDC. So fight back, organize, call your politicians, call RFK Jr. a piece of shit, because he is, and you'll have a good day.